How you doing, guys, and welcome to a new video where I'll be doing something that I haven't done in quite a while in my channel. I always used to take a look at games, play through them, and then offer my honest opinion on them afterwards, whether you want to call that a review or analysis or a retrospective or whatever you want to call it. It's always something that I used to do and I always used to enjoy it. However, I've kind of pushed them aside so I could focus on my walkthroughs, but I figured, what the hell, I'll get back into it and offer my honest opinion on this game, Arizona Sunshine, which is a video game for the PlayStation VR, all set in a zombie apocalypse. There's nothing particularly new about make-believe worlds being set in a zombie apocalypse. In fact, it's pretty much been covered by every single medium you could possibly imagine, whether that be hugely successful television shows, or hugely successful video game series. And if you think that this is just a trend that's just been happening the last couple of years, you'll be hugely mistaken. Zombies have been a trend that have been popular for decades, quite possibly since when your grandparents were kids.
Here he comes now. I'm getting out of here.
Johnny!
It's hard to say why zombies are so popular, or why they've maintained their popularity for so many years. They just have. So, it should come as no surprise that, seeing as how they've continued their popularity, that the mediums will continue to jump into them. And this is no different. This time, it's the relatively young world of VR that has jumped on the bandwagon and offered you the chance to explore a zombie apocalypse, this time through the close perspective of being in virtual reality. So let's have a look at that in Arizona Sunshine and see if it lives up to the hype of the zombie apocalypse. When I first heard about Arizona Sunshine, I was very excited to play it, for a couple of reasons. The first because I absolutely love zombie games, and the second because I love VR games as well. So naturally, the thought of putting those two together made me really excited. But after playing it, I come to the conclusion that although this is by no means a bad game, quite the opposite, it's actually a pretty good game, it definitely has its problems, and depending on your tolerance for these problems, they could severely impact your enjoyment. When the game first loads up, you'll be in a trailer, and this acts as sort of like the main menu of the game. In this menu, you can choose between whether you want to play the campaign, the horde mode, or mess about with the settings. However, one of the first things that you'll no doubt notice is that when you're in this trailer, you'll really be shown that your settings have to be absolutely perfect before you can even do anything else. What I mean by that is that the tracking of the PlayStation camera to your headset will make a massive difference on the gameplay. It all has to be perfect, otherwise the game is going to give you serious problems. So for example, if you're standing up but your camera is too low and staring up at you, then the game will register you as being 10 foot tall. Your head will be poking up outside the top of the cabin and you will not be able to move because you'll be banging into the virtual roof. Again, same thing. If you're too low to the ground and your camera is staring down at you, then the controller will register you as being 2 foot tall and you won't be able to reach anything. I had this problem when I thought I put my camera in just the right position so that it could perfectly detect my height. However, after playing the game, I noticed a few instances where when I opened a door or a gate, I couldn't quite fit through the door because the game was registering me as being too tall. So I physically had to dock my head down to get through these doors because otherwise I was just sticking to them. This seems like a really bad option. Most games have an option where you can manually configure your height in the settings menu. That way, it doesn't matter where your camera is positioned, it can still track the height that your character is supposed to be. But this game just doesn't offer you any of those options, which means that you physically have to keep taking your headset off to perfectly line up the camera, because if you don't, the game is going to register you as either being too tall or too short. Once you've finally sorted the tracking out, then you can mess around with the settings to set it up how you feel comfortable. The game offers a variety of different options to however you feel comfortable playing. You can either play in a teleporting mode where you press a button to highlight and then let go to teleport that position, as well as turning left and right can be set to turn it at angles. This is mainly for people who suffer from motion sickness. However, if you're like me and don't really have that problem, or at least not with most games, I'll get more into that later, then you can set the options so that you can have fully free movement, not just moving forwards and backwards, but also turning left and right. And there's also an option for the speed to which you want to turn in either direction. However, one thing that I did notice when I changed the controls to free movement is that in some instances, not in all, but in some instances, this game did make me feel a little bit nauseous on more than one occasion. I can't explain it. Motion sickness has never been anything that's affected me, and I have played loads of VR games and I've never suffered from this problem. So I don't know what it is about this game that made me feel sick on more than one occasion. Luckily though, it doesn't seem to happen very often, but I guess everyone's different and some people could be affected more than others. The game also offers a variety of different control options. You can either play it with the standard DualShock 4, 2 Move controllers, or the PlayStation Aim controller. However, way you want to play this is completely up to you. However, I chose to play it with the aim controllers merely because I feel that this is how the game was supposed to be played, but it's not perfect. Let me explain. With the move controllers, you can obviously reach out and grab things such as ammo, as well as dual-wield guns, which is incredibly awesome. I can't tell you how satisfying it is to manually aim 2 different guns at 2 different zombies and try and score this headshot. It can be awkward, but it's very fun and very satisfying to do. If you're using a PlayStation Aim controller, the option for dual wielding just doesn't exist. However, the aim controller does allow you to use 2-handed weapons. The problem with using the Move controllers, and this is a problem that affects most PlayStation VR games, is the Move controller's lack of any kind of analog stick, which means the controls had to be improvised and they can be a little tricky. Let me explain a little bit about the controller setup. So, you have the 2 PlayStation Move controllers. To move your character forward, you can press the X button, and to move your character left, you can press the square button on the opposite controller, and to move your character right, again you press the triangle button on the opposite controller. To make your character run, you can press the X button on both controllers at the same time. The problem with this is that if you're pressing the X button at the same time on both controllers, then your thumbs will not be free to press either the left or the right buttons. So basically, you can't sprint and turn at the same time unless you're holding your controllers in some weird crab-like position. This control setup can be pretty confusing at times, especially in the pinch of a moment when you're getting overrun by zombies and you can accidentally press the wrong button at the wrong time in the heat of the moment. This entire setup could have been completely avoided by just redesigning the Move controller with analog sticks built into it, but for whatever reason, that just hasn't happened yet. The game itself is split into 2 different modes, the campaign mode and the horde mode. The horde mode is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You're placed in the middle of an arena with an almost infinite supply of ammunition, and you'll just have waves and waves of zombies coming at you, and you have to either survive as long as you can or survive until the very end. You increase your points by scoring either headshots or consecutive kills, so basically it's more like a score attack mode, and it can be pretty fun. What's even more fun is if you go online, you can actually team up with someone and play this co-op. The campaign mode itself is very linear and very straightforward. Basically, you have to pretty much get from A to B, killing zombies along the way. There's not really many areas to explore in this game, which is quite disappointing. At first glance, just looking at the look and graphics of this game, you'd think that there will be a lot of places to explore, but there really isn't. In fact, 90% of the time, you're pretty much just going in a straight path. There are a couple occasions where you can veer off just ever so slightly and you can find some things like extra weapons or extra ammo, and that's all good, but all in all, it's pretty much just a straight path game. That's not really a massive problem though, because going through the levels are pretty fun, even if they are pretty much just straight paths. Killing zombies is really damn satisfying in VR, especially when you line up the headshots. The only problem with this though is the tracking doesn't seem to be 100% perfect. You can be aiming your gun perfectly down the sight so that you can perfectly see the zombie's head lined up with your sights. However, when you pull the trigger, sometimes, and not always, but sometimes, the bullet will just completely miss them, and it literally makes no sense. But either way, for the majority of the time, the accuracy is really damn good in this game. You have a variety of different weapon options, but most of these weapon options are more just cosmetic more than anything else. Yes, different weapons do offer different ammo counts, and some are slightly faster than others, but all in all, there's not really any massive difference between them to worth flicking through to find your favourite gun. At the end of most levels, you'll come across a sort of mini arena with a locked gate that you have to unlock to finish the level. Usually you have to unlock this gate by either A, finding a key, or B, finding, say, a wrench for example, that you can use to lower a bridge. Usually when these scenes happens, just as you get the thing you need to get to unlock the door, usually some kind of thing happens which will cause all the zombies running towards you. So for example, when you get the wrench that you need to lower the drawbridge, this will set off the car alarm that the wrench was inside, and this will attract all the zombies to you. These moments can be pretty damn tense because they literally come from all directions, and the arenas aren't really that big so that you can run and hide from them, so it literally becomes a tense standoff where you have to kill every single enemy in the area before you can escape. The problem with this though is that it's pretty repetitive and all the levels are pretty much exactly like this. At first it can be fun, but after you've done a few levels you'll realise you're just doing the exact same thing. Go across a more or less straight road, killing the zombies along the way, get to the exit where you'll need to unlock the exit, face the horde of zombies, unlock the exit, and then move on. It's pretty much just a rinse and repeat game. That's not necessarily a massive problem depending on how much you enjoy the base game, but if you get bored at the first level, then there's a very strong chance that you're not going to enjoy any of the others. The good news, however, is that if you have a friend who also has a VR headset and a copy of this game, then you can play the entire campaign from start to finish through online co-op. So, if you're bored of going through these levels on your own, then team up with a friend and you never know, it could make it all that more enjoyable. Overall, I enjoyed my time with Arizona Sunshine. It isn't a great game, but it's by no means a bad game either. It's good for fun, and really that's all you can expect from a game like this. It doesn't have a deep story, it doesn't have powerful music or powerful scenes that are really going to get you engrossed, so if you're looking for that kind of game, then you're going to be disappointed here. However, if all you're looking through is a fun game where you get to shoot zombies' heads off, then chances are you are going to enjoy this game because pretty much it offers exactly that and it doesn't apologise for it. My final score for this game would be a solid 7 out of 10. It's nothing special, but it's by no means bad either. It's actually a pretty good game, but unfortunately suffers from one or two problems. Anyway guys, I'm gonna end this video here. It was pretty fun getting back into the analysing of games. Maybe I'll do some more in the future, so stay tuned, and I'll see you next time.